I will pass over to Ms. Saskia Augustine, and she will do just a brief background into the standards for garlic and onion to explain how we got here and a little in terms of where we expect to go with the objectives of this standard. Saskia.
Hi everybody, again I'm Saskia Augustine and I'm part of the SDD team at the SLBS. So while Tamala has already listed the importance of standards, I will speak more specifically to these two standards. Okay, so it was not listed here on the slide, but a new work item proposal was prepared by one of our TC members, Ms. Anthea Joshua, and that was because of the concerns that were raised about garlic and onion sold in Saint Lucia. So following the favorable support of the Agriculture Committee, they began work on these standards and they took into consideration the work that was being done by the Codex Alimentarius Fresh Fruits and Vegetables Committee. All right, so these national standards are newly developed with the main aim to define the quality requirements for fresh garlic and onions, and as a tool towards greater quality assurance regulation. So through this, a defined grading system will be established to better reflect and advance improvements in the nature and quality of commodities distributed within and from Saint Lucia. So we hope that these documents will guide the fresh produce industry through the use of established commodity requirements and specifications for trade in the efforts to continually improve the safety of domestic and imported fresh produce and enhance the quality of health of the population. Okay. So with that being said, Tamara?
Thanks. Thank you, Saskia. We just want to remind you that if you've not accessed the standards, you can access them because we will be going into the presentation on the standards. And if you want to view it, the access link is there. I would now like to invite Ms. Euphalia Filgens, who is a member of the Technical Committee for Agriculture, who will be doing presentations on the specification for garlic. We will take in any questions at the end of that presentation, and then we will go into the presentation on the specification for onions. Ms. Euphalia Filgens?
Yes. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for making it possible for us to have this consultation. I hope you understand what we're trying to do and then you participate as much as possible. And if you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask. Feel free to ask questions. Okay, so with much further ado, we will start our presentation. Okay, so basically what we will be doing is to give you a snippet of the standard. So you will not be seeing the entire standard in this presentation, but you will be giving you what the content of the standard, what it has in there that is of interest that you may go further now to read and then give feedback. All right, the standard is separated into the scope, normative references, terms and definitions, provisions concerning quality, provisions concerning sizing, provisions concerning tolerance, provisions concerning presentation, provisions concerning marking or labeling, contaminants, hygiene, and method of analysis and sampling. Next slide, please. Okay, and then we also have annexes, and we have Annex A, Annex B. Annex B is about cold storage. Annex B is on certificate or conformity with standards for fresh fruits and vegetables. Annex C is a fact sheet on garlic, and Annex D is garlic Codex EU1 USA pesticide residue limit for garlic. Next slide, thank you. So garlic specification scope. So we're going to go through the scope. What is the scope of that particular standard? The purpose of the standard is to define the quality requirements for garlic after preparation and packaging. However, if applied at stages following packaging, products may show in relation to the requirements of the standard a slight lack of freshness and turgidity, a slight deterioration due to their development and their tendency to perish. For the purpose of this standard, the holder, seller of products may not display such products or offer them for sale or deliver or market them in any manner other than in conformity with this standard. The holder or seller shall be responsible for observing such conformity. Thank you. Okay, the terms and definition. So there will be definitions for clean, and the reason for those definitions is to ensure that there is no confusion or ambiguity. People will understand what the terms mean in as it relates to the standard, because things could mean different things depending on where you're looking at it. So that's why the terms and definitions are there as it relates to the standard. So they would have definition for clean, compact, damage, diameter, dry garlic, fairly well enclosed, fairly well filled and fairly plump, fresh garlic, length, mature, and well cured, semi-dry garlic, similar varietal characteristics, solo garlic, and tops. So as I was reading through, I realized why the definitions are really important, because when you have fairly well enclosed and fairly well filled, fairly could mean different things to different people. So that's very important. Next slide. Provisions concerning quality, minimum requirements. The development and condition of the garlic must be such as to enable them to withstand transportation and handling, and to arrive in satisfactory condition at the place of destination. Minimum maturity requirements, classification, grading, extra class, class 1, and class 2. Next. Provisions concerning sizing. Garlic may be sized by diameter, minimum diameter or diameter range, or in accordance with existing trading practices. When sized in accordance with existing trade practices, the package must be labeled with the size and method used. If a size code is used, the provisions for the following table must be respected. Okay, so we have on the table, extra class is large garlic, not less than 4 centimeters in diameter. Class 1, medium, 3 to 3.9 centimeters diameter. And class 2, small, 1.5 to 2.9 centimeters in diameter. Next. Provisions concerning tolerances. Quality tolerances in extra class, quality tolerances in class 1 and in class 2. And we also have size tolerances. Okay, provisions concerning presentation, uniformity, how the garlic looks in the package. Okay, it's supposed to be in a certain way. Packaging, description of containers, all of that is in the standard. Consumer packages, in addition to the requirements of the Saint Lucia standard of the labeling packaging foods, because there's also a labeling standard for Saint Lucia. It's SLNS 1.23, 2014. Name of produce and origin of produce needs to be on the standard. Country of origin and optionally district where grown, or national, regional, or local place and name. Provisions concerning labeling continues. Non-retail containers, identification, name and address of exporter, packer, and or dispatcher. Identification code optional. So if you have a container that is not for retail, like when you get the big containers, it needs to have all of this in there. Name of produce. Name of the produce, if the could you return the second slide, please? All right. Name of produce, name of the produce if the contents are not visible from the outside, such as garlic, fresh garlic, semi-dry garlic, dry garlic, or solo garlic where appropriate. Name of the variety or commercial type is optional. Okay. Next slide, please. All right. Origin of produce. Country of origin and optionally district where grown or national, regional, local place name. Commercial identification. Class. Size expressed as minimum and maximum diameters of the bulb. Net weight and official inspection mark. Those are optional. Contaminants. The produce covered by this standard shall comply with the maximum residue limits for pesticides established by the Codex Alimentarius Commission. The produce covered by this standard shall comply with the maximum levels in the General Standard for Contaminants and Toxins in Food and Feed Codex Standard 193 to 1995. Next one. It is recommended that the produce covered by the provisions of this standard be prepared and handled in accordance with the appropriate sections of the General Principles of Food Hygiene SLCP 1, 1995, Saint Lucia Code of Practice for Fresh Fruits and Vegetables, SLS 6, 2019, and other relevant national texts such as Codes of Hygienic Practice and Codes of Practice. The produce should comply with any microbiological criteria established in accordance with the General Practice of Food Hygiene, SLCPN 1995. Okay. Annex A, what it covers: cold storage, scope, limitations, conditions for harvesting and storage. Underneath that, we have harvesting characteristics for storage, pre-storage treatment, sizing, packing, putting into storage, method of storage, temperature, relative humidity, at circulation, storage life, operations at the end of storage. Slide. Next slide, please. All right, Annex B, it gives us information on model certificate of conformity with standards for fresh fruits and vegetables. Annex C gives us the fact sheets on garlic, and Annex D, it gives you the Codex EU and USA pesticide residue limits. Now we're going to be looking at onions, and we're going to go through the same process that we did with garlic, as we did with onions. So the contents of the standard starts with the scope, the normative reference, terms and definitions, provisions concerning quality, provisions concerning sizing, provisions concerning tolerances, provisions concerning presentation, provisions concerning marking or labeling, food additives, contaminants, hygiene, methods of analysis and sampling, and Annex A, a pictorial example of onions. Miss Saskia? The scope, this standard applies to onions of varieties grown from Allium cepa L, cepa group of the Amaryllidaceae family, to be supplied fresh to the consumer. The purpose of the standard is to define the quality requirements for onions after preparation and packaging. However, if applied at stages following packaging, onions may show in relation to the requirements of the standard a slight lack of freshness and turgidity, a slight deterioration due to the development and the tendency to perish. Green onions with full leaves as well as onions intended for industrial processing are excluded. Yes, next slide. Terms and definitions, and I did say why we need them before. Clean, damage, decay, disease, doubles, firm, intact, mal-shaped bugs, seed stem, size, sound, and sufficiently dry. Minimum requirements in all cases subject to the special provisions for each class, and the tolerances allowed. The bulb onion shall be A, intact, sound, produce affected by rotting or deterioration such as to make it unfit for consumption is excluded. Clean, practically free of any visible foreign matter, practically free from pests, free from mold and yeasts, free from damage caused by pests affecting the flesh. And we have pictures of classification of onions, class 1 and class 2. That's how it is classed. Quality tolerances. At all marketing stages, tolerances in respect of quality shall be allowed in each lot for produce not satisfying the requirements of the class indicated. Produce that fail conformity assessment may be allowed to be resorted and brought into conformity in accordance with the relevant provisions in the Saint Lucia Code of Practice for Fresh Fruits and Vegetables, SLCP 6, 2019, and we have the class 1 and class 2. And size tolerances, these are some of the areas that are covered. Uniformity, packaging, and underneath packaging you get description of the containers. Cold storage, all of these are part of what makes up the standard. Move on. Consumer packages, name of produce and origin of produce, containers, non-retail containers, retail containers, identification code, name of produce, origin of produce, commercial specifications, official control mark. Now, in the standard, you will get the full explanation in all those areas. We have just given you the topic areas and the sub-clauses, and then you will, if you read the standard, you will see what underneath each of them what's the explanation for it. Let's continue. Contaminants. The produce covered by this standard shall comply with the maximum residue limits for pesticides established by the Codex Alimentarius Commission. Heavy metals. Onions shall comply with those maximum levels for heavy metals established by the Codex Alimentarius Commission for this commodity. And we have contaminants, metal, lead, and cadmium, and unit of measure. And of course, like we tell you, the standard will have that in detail, so you should really read the standard to get the information. Hygiene. It is recommended that the produce covered by the provisions of this standard be prepared and handled in accordance with the appropriate sections of the General Principles of Hygiene, SLCP 1, 1995, Code of Practice for Fresh Fruits and Vegetables, SLCP 6, 2019, and other relevant national texts, such as Codes of Hygienic Practice and Codes of Practice. The produce should comply with any microbiological criteria established in accordance with the General Principles of Food Hygiene, SLCP 1, 1995. And Annex A, the pictorial examples of onions. This is to show us the types of onions that they will be referring to and those that they will not be referring to.